this is Echo Chernik, and welcome to The Professional Artist. And hopefully, you guys are all doing good today. And this is episode 6 of The Professional Artist. I can't believe we're on episode 6 already. And we're streaming live on UPRN. Talk radio, as well as my YouTube channel, which is just /Echo Chernik. Definitely make sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel, as well as click that subscribe button if you want to see the visuals. And thank you for following along. Today, I am going to be beginning the first of what will be hopefully many segments of my question and answer sessions on the business of illustration. As I've told you in the very first episode of Meet Me, the illustrator, the artist, the first episode of Professional Artist, which you can go back to and watch if you haven't seen it already. I've been illustrating for 30 years now, and so I have a lot of knowledge. And I've been teaching the workshop for the illustrators of the future for the last 8 years, which actually inspired me to start this podcast, because it is just a privilege and a pleasure to be able to work with and teach all of the brand new and upcoming and talented illustrators in the workshop I do every year down in Los Angeles. And I just love doing that and being able to pass on everything I know. And it kind of made me realize how much I do know. And so I decided to kind of keep going and doing and start doing this podcast to keep sharing that information. Now, I found that I like to do my teaching style is rather free form and kind of open-ended and responding to questions of what people want to hear about. So I'm going to run the podcast channel the same way because I like doing it that way, and it's my channel. God darn it! So my segments are going to be the same way. That way, I know an awful lot about illustration and the business of illustration, and how to get work as an illustrator, and how to support a family doing it, and about how the industry changes over the course of a long time. And so, the last couple of weeks, we've had some really awesome guests who have been doing it a long time. Some of them, like Bob Eggleston last week, has been doing it even longer than I have. He's been doing it for 40 years. And so, and he was talking about how much the industry's changed as well over the course of 40 years. Which brought up a really good point that a friend of mine asked me about this past week. She said that she found it a little bit intimidating that he said that the industry's changed a lot over the last 40 years. And so she was a little bit intimidated that it seemed it was harder to get work now than it was when he first started or when I first started. And that seemed a little scary and a little intimidating, and and it seemed like a lot different, like as things keep changing and it seems to be difficult or different and harder to get work, and it's not the same as it used to be. And he kept saying that, and what does that mean? And she found that interesting. So I'll be having, just to get back to my original point, I'll be having different guests over the course of in between talking about my different segments, which will keep bringing up different points like that that we can discuss in between and dissect, because we all have different experiences and different points to bring up, because the industry does change and times do change and things are evolving, and part of the point of the space is for us to dissect that. And things have changed since the beginning, because when Bob started, he got work different, and when I started, I got work in a different way. And with technology and with the industry and with everything that's been going on, the times have changed, and it is different, and it is more difficult, and it is uh, work has changed, and selling your art has changed, and things has changed, and you do have to figure it out, and there is no solution. I see Facebook ads like that pop up, oh, here's 11 steps to selling your art and becoming a successful artist and getting 10 million YouTube followers instantly, and they're fail free. And I'm like, if there's not one answer to that. And then if there was an answer to that, you could just subscribe and have the instant answer. It's going to vary depending on you and your art, and maybe that solution will work for somebody but not for everyone. So what I want this space to be is I want this space to be a way for for us to offer each other advice and for you to learn based on what everybody has to say, and their own advice, and hopefully you can glean something that will work for you, and we can glean something that'll work for us, so we can share different advice on new techniques and new technologies that have popped up, because there's always new sites that are popping up, and there's new opportunities that are popping up, and especially now, and that's the best of it. One of the good things about the internet is there's the way we can share information. So I can share with you and Bob and Larry Elmore and Dan Dos Santos and Todd Lockwood and all the other guests I'm going to have on the show, and share with you all of their information about how to run a business and how to do all the things that we do, and give you all this solid advice that will help you just keep going in the right direction, and then we can help each other get going at the keep succeed. And like I said, one what might work for you might not work for me, or what might work for someone else. You got to tweak your own business in a way, but there are solid rules about being a successful illustrator, about how to succeed, and those are certain rules of business that I will be covering over the next few sessions. So but, yeah, and, I'm gonna be taking some questions today too, so, hopefully I have some people want to ask some questions. I got the chat up, and I'll get to those in a second. First I'm gonna talk a little bit about promoting yourself, and that I would say, do online media as much as you can. It's not always easy. I know some of us struggle with doing online stuff. I don't I had a hard time going on podcasts and stuff for a long time, but I was on a podcast on Thursday to raise, which was for the called the Longest Day fundraiser, which is to raise money for Alzheimer's. And oddly enough, I actually forgot I was supposed to be on it till the day before, which was rather funny. And I wasn't sure whether I was supposed to make a joke about forgetting I was supposed to be on a podcast for raising money for Alzheimer's or not. I was like, is that funny, or is that in bad taste? Do I say I forgot I was supposed to be on it, or is that awkward, or so? But but it was a really good it was a really good fundraiser. And it's for the podcast contents may vary, which you should definitely check out if you get a chance. I will put the link in my on my YouTube channel. It's also on my if you go to my website, echo chernik.com. It was hanging out with Angie F. Sutton, and we talked about all kinds of great things. And one of the things that Angie asked me in her list of questions was, "What is the difference between an illustrator and a fine artist? What's the difference? What is illustration versus art?" Because this is called the professional artist, not the professional illustrator. And I did that for a reason. I specifically, I'm an illustrator by trade, but I called this podcast the professional artist. Why did I do that? Why didn't I call it the professional illustrator? Because I do illustration mostly, and I consider myself an illustrator. But I do my own pieces as well, more and more. And a lot of the illustrators that I have on here that I talk to also do their own pieces, which aren't necessarily illustrations. So, but what is that? What is that? What does that mean? What is an illustration versus a non-illustration? I mean, who is an illustrator, who isn't an illustrator, and what does that mean in the past? For instance, Norman Rockwell. Norman Rockwell, you guys know who that is. That's the guy who does the paintings of all the really super American happy families with the turkey dinners and everything that are on the cover of the Post magazines. The super, American, the families with the puppies and the very Americana families. He actually was doing those when realism was not in style at all. He loved to paint super realistic, and that was very much not in style. And but he loved doing that, and that's what he was really good at. And he just kind of followed his heart and kept doing that anyway. And because that's what he loved, and that's what he wanted to do. And eventually, they went, "Ooh, wow, you're really good at that." And then he brought it back into style just by following his heart, which is what you should always do. And so anyway, he was an illustrator because he told us, story. He's always telling a story, and that's what an illustration does. It tells a story. It sells a product. It has a purpose as opposed to just being a picture, a portrait. If you're painting a if he was just painting a picture of a woman sitting at a table, just like, sitting there looking pretty, that would be a portrait. If the woman has a turkey and there's family around her and, he's, and she's holding up a spice for the turkey and she's trying to sell the spice, then it's an illustration because she's telling a story or selling a spice or something like that. So that's the major difference between an illustration and a portrait. Or if it was just a picture of a plant or something or hotel art or just something that's decorative or um, that doesn't tell a story per se, then it would be fine art as opposed to an illustration. Now, I do fine art. I love fine art, and but I still tend to still tell stories in my fine art anyway because I'm always an illustrator. um, Traditionally, a lot of people didn't respect illustrators because they like fine art and they're like, "Oh, that's illustration. That's not real art." And which I always found kind of strange. Um, that people didn't really respect illustrators. They were considered commercial artists or you're selling out. That's not art. That's not really, that's not really you're not a real artist. You're just, you're selling art. That's not art. That's just you're a tradesman then, you're a craftsman. So, but but it really is art. And a lot of illustrators actually were fine artists as well, and vice versa. Because commercial art, pays the bills, and I think you've heard if you've watched the last few episodes, you've heard both Todd Lockwood and Bob Eggleton say that they've done a lot of advertising illustration. I think both of them both kind of rolled their eyes at it, like, oh, they didn't care for it very much, but it paid the bills really well. I'm kind of a rare bird. I actually love commercial illustration, but again, commercial art usually pays a lot more because you're not able to do your own thing. Um, but you get Tony Steele saying he got, you got that a lot. You uh, got a lot of slack for, it not being real art, being, it being uh, not not real art, being, it's being you're selling out. You're not expressing. You're not being allowed to express yourself. So you're just, oh, you're a sellout. You're doing, yeah. You're not really you're not a real artist because you're just a sellout. You're doing something somebody else wants you to do. Um, Unlike me, a lot of my commercial art has actually kind of become who I am. So, um, but that's, and Muka actually a lot of his, if you've looked at Alphonse Muka, all of his Art Nouveau pieces that you love, the posters with the beautiful women and everything. Most of that is all of his commercial work. Those big posters you see with the beautiful women with the bikes and everything. They're holding the bikes with their hair flowing and the things. Those are all for selling bicycles or baby food and stuff. That is his commercial work. And that's actually not the work that he liked the most. He liked his paintings. He was most fond of his pieces. He had an entire group of pieces, most that were lost actually, and destroyed in the war, called the Slav Epic. If you get a chance to look it up, and they're just gorgeous, huge paintings, and those were his passion pieces. And he's not known for those. He's known for his commercial work, unfortunately. For him, I mean, he really wanted to be known for um, his passion projects, his love work, but people, know him for his illustration. So that's the big difference. But Tony, what do you treasure most? Your pieces, your personal pieces, or your commercial work? I'm asking Tony Steele that. I can pull out a comment here so I can show this comment. Aha, I can. Oh, just yep. I get that a lot, says Tony. I think Tony Steele's URL, I think it's just Tony Steele. Uh, I'm not sure what your URL is, Tony. Pop it in there. I'll pop it up there. Tony's work is awesome, by the way. But yeah, Tony does like a ton of commercial work. Um, You're doing your own thing too. Throw your URL up there so I can share it with everybody. I don't remember directly off the top of my head exactly what your URL is. You like doing your own work though too. Are you gonna be at Gen Con this year, Tony? Think I see you there every year. Can't believe Gen Con's coming up and it's steelworks.cravado.com. STEELEWORKS.CREVADO.com. I'm spelling it out for the radio people. Oh, not going to be at Gen Con this year. And I will show it for everybody else that wants to see it. But yeah, Tony's been doing this for, oh, geez, as long as me, I think, right? Should have you on sometime, Tony. So you can come chat and share your journey as well with everybody. So you should come on and share. But yeah, yeah, same thing though. Yeah, like it's hard to do your own pieces because people they don't see it the same. 20 plus years. Yeah, yeah, you should come on and be a guest sometime. Just hit me up after the show and we'll talk. So, let's yeah. So, all right. So let's see. Let's see what kind of questions we have. Do I have any examples of how the illustrators of the future winners have gotten jobs? Yeah, I've been teaching the illustrators of the future winners for 5 years now. I've been down there teaching them the to enter the illustrators of the future. You got about 6 more days, I think, if you guys and you have anybody out there that is interested in being a illustrator and hasn't entered, just go to writersofthefuture.com and you can find the link to enter the contest. It's free. You can enter quarterly. It's an awesome contest, and you can come spend an entire week in Los Angeles. And I can tell you, I teach an entire workshop on it, and it's awesome. It's you get published in the book. They treat you like they treat you like gold. And then when you're in the book, they really push really hard to get it to be a New York Times bestseller every year. So you're a New York Times bestseller illustrator like off the bat, and then you get paid for that, and then you compete for the grand prize. Um, and there's a huge fancy black tie ceremony. It's really good. And then after that, they really the people at Galaxy Press down there that run the contest really work to help you promote and push your portfolios to try to get you work. That's the whole point of the contest. So the point of that contest there is to really give new illustrators a leg up to try to get them work. So you have an automatic, foot, step up out the door to try to get work. So you have like a team on your side that doesn't cost you anything, which is amazing. So beyond trying to promote yourself, you have a team promoting for you, which is really cool. But self-promotion is the number one thing. You should have a website and you should have your work up wherever you can. Part of being an illustrator is you have to remember that when you start promoting yourself everywhere, you have to automatically get in the mindset that you are indeed now a business. That means that when you're posting your work, you have to treat yourself like a business, and you have to uh, get a Facebook page and get, wherever you're going to post yourself, Facebook page, Instagram, you represent your work as a business, which means you have to start acting like a business, and you have to keep in mind that everyone looking at you is going to be thinking of hiring you, and that you have to refrain on posting anything anywhere that's really too personal. That means you cannot post uh, unprofessional things. You have to keep in mind that no longer have the freedom to really post political commentary or, you know, tasteless things or anything that's not professional, unless it becomes part of your business sense. I mean, if you're going to be an editorial illustrator and you're going to, or you're going to have a public persona to talk about politics, then that's fine as long as it's part of your business. But you have to keep in mind that once you start looking for work publicly, that is part of your business, and anyone looking at your work is going to see that, and that they are going to equate anything you say online with your business and your professionalism. So make sure you keep that in mind from the very beginning. That you can't you have to keep your online presence professional all the time. So just start that from the very beginning. Um, No, no swearing or saying things that, just assume that everybody looking at your Facebook page is a potential client. As tempting as it is to post funny things that you find funny, just keep it professional. Um, Set up a secondary page for family if you want to keep it, if you want to post funny family pictures and stuff like that. Just keep that separate from your business. That's the most important business advice I can give, and then keep your professional stuff separate. Um, and Yeah, get that set up right away. Let's see. Emma's, what'd you say? I would think that commercial work is harder than your own inspiration because you have to do someone else's inspiration. Oh, that depends. Uh, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I find that I find it a challenge. I love to take what somebody else gives me, and I automatically can just translate that into my own inspiration. Usually, there's a couple times it's a little hard to translate, but usually I'm able to just translates in my head, and I get inspired by it. I maybe that's the way maybe I was dropped on my head too many times as a child, and my brain just kind of morphs it into my own inspiration. But I automatically just can turn. I can pretty much, and if someone changes direction and says, "No, we went in this style instead," I can just turn on a dime. It's I'm my brain's pretty broken that way. But but for some people that is really difficult to get inspired by somebody else's that inspiration and to do someone else's vision. And it is hard when they give you too much art direction. The number one challenge is when someone comes in and gives you too tight art direction. And Tony, have you run into this where someone comes in and they give you really, really, really very strict art direction, and it's not what you're seeing, and you know it's not the best for the project, and you spend the entire time trying to advise them that this is not the best thing for the project, and they keep fighting back, and that makes it really challenging as an illustrator. So I should probably talk about that sometime, how to best advise.
There are people commenting to the Facebook if you want to look at to answer those
I've
questions.
just been advised that there are people commenting to the Facebook too, but I'm not, they are not popping up on my feed currently. So let me see if I can get over to see what the Facebook feed is saying, because I am not getting the Facebook comments currently. Um, see if I can see what the Facebook feed is. I'm not sure how to get to the Facebook feed to see where these are. Apparently, I have comments over there. So maybe my technical support will try to hook that up while I talk to you guys. Let's see if I can get tech support on trying to get that Facebook feed up there. So there's tech support. So, oops, hold on. Here, let me click this here for me so I can get back to my regular comments. There we go. Tech support's gonna. Oh, can you close this? There, text. This is tech support over here, and tech support, random tech support hand. Is there any project that I have not worked on that I would love to? Oh, I guess this is for both of us. I guess this is for Tony as well. Um, any project that I haven't worked on that I would love to. Just heard myself there. I'm getting a reverb on that. Okay, there we go. Oh, no, I think that's that. I got those comments right here, Les.
From lIlustration and from
Yep,
Tony
yep,
Steele.
I
Awesome.
got them.
Then they
We're
are
good.
coming through.
Okay, we are solved. Sorry about that. Still on episode 6, so we're still working out the technical things here to make sure we got it all good. Yes, any project that we haven't worked on that I would love to. Oh gosh. I think I'd like to do a US stamp. I had actually somebody talk to me about it at Illustrators of the Future, and they did a stamp, and they were showing me all about how they got to do the stamp, and they showed me now how you can get to the website and go onto Instagram, and you can go onto the US Mint and uh, follow the US Mint page. And next time they do an open call, it'll it'll show you when they have an open call for artists now, and let you know so you can submit your portfolio, which is really cool because last time I guess they only do it every couple years or so, but last time I knew that you got for stamp that you could get on a stamp was only through like your agency rep or so, and they specifically called out to artists, and that was like 20 years or so ago. But now I guess they do an open call, and I'm like, oh, well, that's cool to know, and so next time that open call goes out, I'm gonna submit some work to try to get a stamp because I was like, "Well, I think I would like to do that," and I've been doing a lot of line work lately, and that would be just neat. I'd like to have work on a stamp. I don't know why I'd like to work on a stamp. I guess I've always liked stamps. Stamps are just cool, and, that would be really just neat to have work on a stamp. So, what else would I like to have work on that I haven't had work on? I think my favorite project that I have is the Celestial Tea because I like seeing my work on the shelves, and, I don't know, I like commercial work because I like seeing stuff on the shelves. I know eventually it goes away and it disappears, but I something about seeing your work in a store that's just I always find fascinating. So, alright, Athena says, "What are some recommendations for managing expectations around communicating commission details with clients? And what are some gotchas to be aware of?" Oh, Tony says he'd like to work on some wine labels. Yeah, wine labels are fun to work on. Definitely. I have a wine label story. Remind me about budgets and wine labels, Tony, to bring that back up later. Recommendations for managing expectations around communicating commission details with clients. Yes, so I have actually was approached with a project that I'm working on now, where they had some concerns about communicating with a client, and they are an awesome client to work with. I am adoring working with them right now because they came in um, with a creative director who has actually it's the art buyer, I guess they would be called. Um, when you're approached all right, so let's back up a little bit here. You can be approached by several different people to be hired for an illustration job or, to be hired to work on a job. You can be approached by the creative director who is in charge of all the creative, or the art director who works under the creative director, or you can be approached by somebody called an art buyer and big companies, and their entire job is to basically find the right is to find the artists that are available and to make sure that they're available, do all the negotiatings, and buy the art, basically buy that, make sure the artist is available, commission them, get that all set, and then once they make sure that you're available and get everything in order, they pass you off to the art director and you don't deal with the art buyer again. There's or you can talk directly to the graphic designer, or you can talk directly to the owner of the company or the individual whose job, who's making the piece, or, the writer if it's just like the book. It depends how big the company is. In this case, I guess the person I'm working with is sort of the consultant they brought in to run the project. I'm not sure exactly what their title is, but they're like the consultant. And there is a creative team that's in place, but not very they're not really a professional creative team, I guess. And he has concerns that the creative team isn't very experienced, and he from the very get-go, because he has a lot of experience, he brought to me concerns that the creative team has a lot of ideas, and they're very ambitious, and they have a lot of ideas, and he was really concerned I wasn't gonna be able to manage them, that they were just gonna trample all over me with all kinds of ideas, and he wanted to make sure, and no, he wasn't kidding. He wanted to make sure that I knew that they were well-meaning, but they could get out of hand very easily. And he, having a lot of experience, wanted to make sure that I knew how to handle them and how to manage a committee, because there is an art to managing a committee because, they can get out of hand very fast. Tony, you've probably had some experience with committees. And there is an art to managing a committee of people, because when you're dealing with, a group of people trying to make a decision, um, they they want to and sometimes they really want what's best for the project. They do. They are somewhat creative, which is honestly worse because they all wanna have their ideas. They have ideas and they want to get them in there. But you, as a professional, as an illustrator, you really do have a good idea of what you're doing and you do know what's best for the project. And you need to be able to, if you let them boss you around, you're going to end up with a hot mess in your hand of a project that just does not come together. And then they're going to look at it and no one's going to be happy. And so you have to manage how many different rounds of revisions they have, and you have to tactfully be able to, and this comes through experience, handle how much control they have for making changes, and give them a certain amount of, involve them in the process, but, ask them questions so that they can make certain amount of choices. But involve them in choices that don't mess up your vision too. Like, get them tied up with things about asking them, like, about the title face or something, so that they leave the figure alone and you let you work on the figure, or the focus of the figure, and let them get them all tied up in, like, the font, so that you're not worried about the face, that they're just leaving you alone to do the figure so that they can just worry about the font, so that you're just like, "Okay, you focus on that. Let me just do my job." So, because, they just wanna be involved. But it takes, it's a challenge to manage a committee, because they want to be involved, but they could, if you do it wrong, ooh, it could be a mess. Um, but this person that's managing this job is doing an excellent job. Really, just, we had a big talk about it, and we've come up with a solution so that they have certain things that they're helping me with, but certain things that, he's given me the time to put key elements in place so that they can make a lot of creative decisions without messing up my structural framing elements. Like, I've been able to put all the framing elements in place and make the big decisions, that so that they, anything just that they make, that they can have decisions on, it's not gonna mess anything up in terms of my major decisions. It's like, "Oh, you want a fern instead of a flower? Okay, that's fine, whatever." You know, the you know, that's called, like, client management, which is, it takes some time to learn that. So, but the best thing in terms of managing expectations is to have it in writing. Write down that they will have 3 sets of sketches, and then they'll be able to, do 3 moderate revisions from there. Um, Everything should be in writing, and you should be able to have, like, 3 rounds of sketches, and then how big the revisions are, to, like, if you're gonna have, like, all right, so you should have 3, you're gonna present 3 sketches, and then to one of those sketches, you're going to do, 2 minor revisions, and then bring that to a, medium finish, and then to that, they're gonna allow it to have, like, 2 small changes, and then if they want anything major beyond that, then you'll negotiate how much that's gonna cost. And then any changes beyond that will be renegotiated or will be billed hourly at $150 an hour or something like that. It is, and then you just renegotiate. And if they say, "Oh, we really like this, but we really decided we want to go with the other sketch instead. We know it's going to cost more, but can we do it? And how much is that going to cost?" And then you guys just discuss it. You just say, "Oh, all right, well, no problem, but can we, I've only got this far in this, so it's going to be an extra, whatever, $500 or whatever." They go, "Okay, that's fine." And you just put it in writing, and as long as it's in writing, you're good. It's all a matter of just having it in writing. As long as you have it in writing, always have it in writing. By the way, I can't say that enough times. Have it in writing. Have everything in writing. Say that one more time. And then, tattoo it on your arm if you have to, but have it in writing. And if it's on the phone, and you have a conversation on the phone, then follow it up with an email to confirm our recent conversation, or to reiterate "It was a great speaking with you, so and so. Just to confirm our recent conversation, blah 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 blah, in writing. Please respond." So that they can write back, so that you have it in writing, just to make sure that you guys are absolutely on the same page. Because that, even if it's a friend of yours, because the best thing you can do to keep your friendship is to just have it in writing. So, because if you go, say Tony and I that are friends, he's a friend of mine, were to go in and decide we're going to do a project together, we would want to have it writing so that later on down the line, if we had a disagreement, we would maintain our friendship because we would have disagreed on something that we thought we understood, but apparently we didn't quite understand as well as we thought we did. It makes just having it written down makes it a lot easier. Um, and it would cost you a lot less money and a lot less hassle, and and a lot of times the client's just fine with being like, we changed our mind. We don't mind paying a little bit more. No problem. We love the work. It's looking great. We just want to go with the other one. Here's a little bit more money. So, and I will eventually be going over the I can go over a lot of the different details in the contracts too, like different there's all kinds of different elements that you can do, like the kill fees and stuff, so that if you get to a certain point in your contract, like for instance, you do your first sketches, you get a third of the way through. And this is what I'm doing with this wonderful group I'm working with now. I'm doing I did the first round of drawings, and say, for instance, they got to the first round of drawings, they paid me for a third up front, and they say they didn't like 'em. Say I did my first drawings, and they're all like, "Oh, yeah, this isn't what we were thinking at all." And they paid the first third. That would count as what's called a kill fee, and they could be like, "We're just not feeling it," and I could be like, "Understandable. We weren't seeing the same thing. We thought we were okay. We're just going to kill the project." I get my first third of the payment, and they can walk away without having to pay the rest of the money, and we're done. And that's called a kill fee, which means, you still get paid for the work you did. And yet they don't have to pay the whole amount, and everybody's happy. And I usually do that in thirds, especially with smaller clients. A third up front, a third after they approve the sketches, and then a third at the end of the final project. Um, and I'm gonna put in my ticker banner thing here on YouTube. You can't see it on the public radio, but you should go to the Graphic Artists Guild Guide for Pricing and Ethical Guidelines. If you don't already have that, you should get that, because I'm going to put that name up there. It's called the Graphic Artists Guild Guide for Pricing and Ethical Guidelines. You should get a copy of that book, because that has um, amazing amount of awesome help. It has pricing in it for illustrators. It has contracts. It talks all about kill fees. It talks about everything you need to know is in that book. Um, and you should go to their website too, and read up on things and follow their page as well. It's the Graphic Artists Guild. And the Guide for Pricing and Ethical Guidelines, like I said, it talks all about kill fees, and rush fees and all of those things, so you know what those things are, because they're really important to know those things. Do I take a certain percentage upfront or along the way? Usually with smaller clients, I ask for a percentage upfront, and then usually I do thirds, especially depending on the size of the project. With this one, I did a third upfront, which means they give me a third upfront, and then I do the sketches, and after they agree in the sketches, then I'll bill them for the second third, and then I finish the project, and then after the project's all done, then the last third, and I have a copy of my contract I can post up too, that I can share, and then they get whatever licensing, which I'll talk about another day. They get whatever licensing is after they finish paying everything. Yeah, numbers are definitely hard. So, yeah, but it's definitely important to to have a contract or an agreement of some sort. I don't usually do a percentage. I have a illustration representative in New York, and they just do a purchase order. They don't I don't do a percentage up with them, with my representatives, just because they work with much bigger companies, and that's not usually such an issue. But with smaller companies, definitely do a percentage, just you know for the sake of it's definitely better practice. But and sometimes I just do half up front, um, for sure. But yeah, I can if you need a copy of the contract we use just let me know. We have a standard contract we've pieced together over the years, and it's it works well. And sometimes I want to change it, but it's worked. It's pretty standard, and it's worked really well. And they also have a copy of a contract in the Graphic Artist Guild book that you can use as well. But definitely an agreement of some sort. You need to have an agreement so that everybody knows what you're, everybody has an idea what you're doing together, what you're agreeing to. So, because you need to all know what you're doing and who's paying what and when everything is due. And if in communication is key. Again, if for some reason you can't make the deadline, if for some reason something happens, and just communicate. Set your project. Yeah, Tony says setting your project milestones is definitely important. And if something happens, like I said, and you're going to be late on your deadline, or something's going to happen, just don't freak out and just disappear. Contact them and be like, listen, my grandma died, my pencil fell out the second story window and got hit by a car, or something. My pencil, I said pencil, or something, or whatever happens. I know you got sick or something. Contact your client, and they usually have some wiggle room in the deadline, or try to work it out. I mean, just communicate with them. Just help figure it out together. That's just number one thing. Are there straightforward rules or working out how to price a project? Well, I'll talk about pricing another day. I don't have enough time to get too much into pricing today. But yes, there is some rules on pricing. The guideline, the book helps with that. It comes down to there's rules, but they're not set in stone. It comes down to a mix between the size of the industry that you're pricing for, the size of the project, how much time it takes you, and then it comes into licensing. Like, what are you licensing them for? Are you selling the entire copyrights for it, or you just license them the right to use it for a particular thing. I should probably just do an entire segment on licensing at some time, because in pricing, because it's not really a set. Uh, it's a little bit challenging to try to, it does come with experience. Try to get a number out of the client first. Usually they have an idea how much they want to spend. What I did at the beginning is, I actually, when I wasn't sure what to price at all, and I didn't have any help from the internet, is I actually relied a lot on the Graphic Artists Guild book. And I would look up what it said that I should charge, because there's actually graphs all in there that suggests, based on the size of the project and how and the licensing that they want and how many people it's going out to. It says how much I should be getting paid. And then I would totally say, well, based on this book, I should be getting this much. Or I would say, based on a similar project, and I would kind of leave it unsaid, like I had a similar project that was similar to this, but you know it would be based on the book numbers. It should be this much, and they would be like, oh, well, yeah, that sounds fine. I'd be like, yes. And then from then on, out from there, I would just simply say, well, the last project that I had that was similar to this paid this much. And then they would be like, oh yeah, that sounds fine. Or like, oh, well, I don't have quite that much. And then once you get a number out there, usually you can kind of get the negotiations going if you can get a number in play. And then they'd be like, oh, that's a little more budget than I wanted. Then you can kind of like work with the um they can be like, they have a number in play, but they wanted full copyrights. You could be like, well, if you as long as you're willing to do like just, one-time usage, we can do a lower number. And they're usually like, oh, well, yeah, okay, we can do that. Or you can, negotiate for, product if they wanted to do less. I've negotiated for a lot of product and stuff. Never ever work for free um or for exposure. Definitely don't work for free or for exposure. Um, and be careful of contests. There, you have to just be wary, because sometimes there's contests that are like, "Oh, enter this contest and you'll get exposure." You can get into for free. Yeah, people die of exposure. Ugh. But no, no, don't do it for exposure. I don't, just be careful of contests. Illustrators of the Future is totally legit. You get paid, you win. It's totally legit. I can vouch for that one. I entered a contest for a Wajimaya once for a shopping bag, and I won like $1,000 gift card for that because I wanted to do a piece in that style, and I was like, I want to do a piece in that style anyway, and it'd be kind of cool to win a gift card, and and I wanted to do a piece practice that style, and and I won it, and I was like, "Whoo, yay!" But I wanted to do a piece of practice in that style anyway, and they weren't promising exposure. They were promising, $1,000 gift card, and it was for a local thing. But watch the internet ones because a lot of them are really read what they have to say because a lot of them say like in the fine print, if just by entering, you are automatically giving up all copyrights, and you're like, whoa, hello, no. So very, very carefully read that you are not just giving up the copyright to your piece just by entering the contest. Okay, don't give up the copyright to the piece by entering. No. No, no, no. So be sure before you enter or even do the piece for a contest, you read very carefully because you don't want to be signing away your copyrights, just by yeah, be careful about that sort of stuff. There's a lot of shysters out there that you just it's amazing. Yeah, yeah. So in saying the watch my I was a local grocery store, and it was my bag that first introduced me to my art. Introduced them to my art. I know. I don't know. They had the contest, and I was like, I just had this image of they had this big dragon. They had these reusable bags, and one of them had the big dragon on it, and it's an Asian grocery store. And they had a big dragon on the bag, and then they had these other bags, and and it was an awesome grocery store. And I just had this image of these big sushi kites, like these big sushi, like those koi kites, but it were like they're but these big koi kites like chasing sushi, and I was like, that'd be really just fun to do, and I just want to do it for myself, and I want to do it for myself, and so in my mind, I was like, I don't care if I win the contest or not, I'm gonna do it for myself, and I just did it for myself anyway. So if you're gonna do a contest, go about it for that mindset. Don't go about it like you're like Brent depends on it and just be very wary of things but I knew I was going to win it because it was a good idea. It was solid, but either way I was winning because I knew I was going to have a kick-ass uh portfolio piece just because I wanted to kind of try this new style out, and I just because I was like, "I think I wanna do this style, and I wanna see if because I wanted to fish out for some new, fish, huh, get that? Fish. I wanted to fish for some new pieces, some new, work in that style, and, it was great. I had, like, a shopping spree, $1,000 shopping spree to Wajimaya. It was amazing. So, but, but yeah, so, yeah, whenever yeah, but, what else? Any last questions or oh gosh, we're almost out of time already. Alright. Any more questions? Yeah. So, anyway, so yeah, so I'm gonna be doing more of these in between sessions. I'm gonna be having guests, and I'm gonna be doing in between sessions. Go on to my YouTube page and post questions, and I will be addressing them about the business of illustration. I will get a and post up that contract. See if I can post it up on my YouTube page there, so that you can download it and check it out. It's pretty basic, but it's a good template to uh, to be able to change and, modify. I've definitely, like I said, again, everything has to be in writing so that, that's the best way to make sure that you're covered, and you can always ask any, other illustrators for help or advice. Really, this is a great community. Everybody's always happy to help advice, offer advice. There's a whole bunch of really great communities of illustrators out there that if you find one of them, just ask, and they're always happy to just help advise you. Be like, hey, listen, what do I do? I get this client that wants me to do this. Should I do it? They want me to sign this work for hire contract. What is this? What do I do? Just ask. And there's so many great communities out there, people, including, hopefully this one too, that we can just, we're happy to help because if things are, are changing and you need resources. So, just post up questions and we'll do our best to answer them. And guide you guys along the way in your path and give you all the advice you can. And see if I can line up a good guest next week, possibly Tony Steele, if Tony Steele's around. Possibly. Possibly. We'll see. Well, upcoming soon, we'll have Tony Steele on here to talk about his 20 years of experience as an illustrator, and that'll be amazing. So, next Saturday at 1, Tony? What do you think? What you thinking? You're on next Saturday at 1 Pacific time? I haven't booked anyone next week. All right, so next week we'll have Tony Steele at 1 Pacific time. So, sounds good. So since I haven't booked anyone for next week yet, but and then we'll talk about Tony's years of experience, and then every couple weeks I'll be doing one of these questions and answers. So be posting up any comments you guys have about business illustration questions and direction you want me to take it. Like I said, I like to do things a little free form based on what you guys are curious about. I have so much to talk about. And I'll do a session about licensing and everything in the future too. So, all right. Well, thank you for tuning in. I guess I'm out of time already. That went fast. So, take care and keep arting and be good. So, see you next week.